Department of Planning. I'm the Western Sector Planner. I welcome you all to the Housing Focus Group meeting for Arbutus Sustainable Community Area. Today is number 18, 2020, and the time now was 6:05 p.m. So for those of you who have been in the other meetings, you're very familiar now with the agenda and what to expect. So I welcome all the community members, the advisory committee members, and with me joining today are the planning staff, the Director of Planning, Pete Getwald, Division Chief, Amy Mante, Western Sector Coordinator, Gani Derp, and Joe Fraker, who is co-hosting with me today. And we have a housing panelist. I'm hoping they would join soon to take the questions towards the end, David Thinner and Marcia Williams. First, I would give you a brief overview of the focus group meetings, which we have done before and what we'll be doing today, and then discuss the project kickoff feedback, and then give a brief overview of the survey results, which we collected after the project kickoff last month, and then open for question and answer session to take feedback from the community. So these are the November meetings, which we have been having from November 5th. We covered the transportation focus group meeting and economy. And last week we had quality of life and environment focus group meeting. And now we are doing the housing, and followed by this, we have local government support focus group meeting at 7:30 p.m. So what are we going to discuss today? Housing mainly focuses on homes where people live in your community and have affordable home ownership, increasing rental housing, diversify the kinds of housing available, improving the existing housing conditions, both interior and exterior, and what are the housing programs available, aging in place, preventing foreclosures, and also reducing the residential vacancy. So at the project kickoff, we discussed very briefly about housing, and the main things were strict county code that is not allowing people to have more renters, and then how to take advantage of UMBC renters in the area. So to talk about the strengths and weaknesses, these were two questions which was asked in the survey. And what did you like about the Arbutus community area? So you all replied the proximity to state parks, UMBC, Catonsville, Ellicott City, and the highways. And you have talked about the quaint small town feel and small friendly neighborhood, walkable restaurants, movie theaters, local shops close to mass transit. And there were some other comments that how you feel great about living in the community for many years, and how you enjoy and experience with all the existing strengths in the area. So what did you not like about the Arbutus? What are the weaknesses? The main things that were pointed out were that you need more businesses similar to mainly Catonsville downtown and Ellicott City Main Street, and also run downtown where there are a lot of vacant stores, and how the existing businesses need more facelift, and how to prevent homelessness. And then the crime in the area, and the landlords in the East Drive corridor should maintain their properties and to have no more development and to maintain the existing green space, and also to how to avoid flooding, especially in Lee 7. So here is a chart for the housing survey results, which we collected. There were totally 36 responses, of which the respondents for housing were 28. So the main concerns that were brought about is that there are a lot of rentals, and the community is looking for more home ownership, to increase more home ownership, and to improve the existing housing conditions, to have senior housing, and to have more affordable housing, how to stop foreclosure, and how to address the absentee landlord issues. And though there are comments on lot of rentals. There were also comments on how to increase the rental options with the existing rentals, especially for the UMBC students. So with all that discussed, here is an idea to give you that most of the comments were to increase home ownership and to improve the housing conditions, and that there are too many rentals and to have more affordable housing. So with that said, I would like to just have some of the questions laid out so you could ponder upon that and give more feedback on that. So as we saw in the graphs, there are a lot of rentals. So we would like to hear how you would like to address the rental issues and how to increase the home ownership, and what are the existing housing conditions and how do we improve the existing housing conditions. And UMBC partnership has been brought out again and again in all the focus group meetings, and we have been hearing a lot of feedback from students and also the community members. So what do you think, how we could bring in more renters and make it available for UMBC students, and how to prevent foreclosures? These are some of the main questions from the survey results, which we wanted you to address more on and give more feedback. And if there are any questions related to housing, if you have not touched in any of the meetings before, not in the project kickoff or not through the survey, and if you want to talk about it now, please do, especially for housing. And you can throw the questions based on the strengths, weaknesses, challenges, and opportunities. These are the main categories we are looking for in all the focus group meetings. So I will change my screen based on what you're talking. Go to GIS and Google Maps and have the slides too if you need to revisit some of the slides. And like before, I will open the floor for question and answers. Please type in your name in the chat box and we will navigate you, read the questions, and we'll unmute you and you can elaborate on the questions, or if you have anything new, you can go ahead and ask. Thank you. So let me just stop sharing the screen so that I can see the chat box, and then as you ask the questions, I'll start sharing the screen again. Any questions? Feel free to type in the chat box or raise your hand. We can unmute you.
Hey, Nancy, you're unmuted.
My name is Nancy Young and I work at the university, and I actually work with our housing unit is one of the areas that I supervise. And I have long been really interested in strategies that I've seen used at other universities where there's someone that works with the faculty and staff hiring and as we help young faculty and staff with young families and things. It seems like Arbutus would be the perfect place to buy a home. And so that as properties come on the market and we're in the process of hiring, is there anyone that's done any of that kind of work?
You mean like hiring? Can you repeat the question for me, please?
Not hiring anyone, but so we hire faculty and staff. Okay. That are moving from other areas of the country or other areas of Maryland. And many young faculty are looking for affordable housing near campus. And we know that we've got a large population in Catonsville, but I was wondering if there's been any work or thought done about working with the university to, as housings are available, and if there's timing that works with our new hiring cycles, that we might make those connections for young faculty who are looking to move near campus.
Not that I know of, but we can get back to you discussing with the housing team. And I see in the chat box that somebody else Jay wants to answer to that. You're muted,
Yep.
Jay.
So this is Jay Dillo, Nancy. I'm
Hey, how are you?
good. Good. How are you?
Well, thank you.
So actually, I mean, as you know, this is one of the things the Neighborhood Relations Committee that Lisa Oshkin and I co-chair. We've kind of brought this up a couple of times because I think when we talk about, you know, Josephine had that great slide about our strengths, weaknesses, challenge, opportunities. This is one of those great opportunities. I think we just have to figure out how we can take better advantage of. I mean, we have a little bit of hurdle in the Arbutus area because, quite frankly, the high school doesn't get great ratings when it's rated amongst its other high schools in the county. So as young parents, you're looking for that stable house you want to be in for years, and that tends to deter. But I think there's some things we're working on, and I'm hoping what part of this sustainable communities piece can do is actually provide a better opportunity to make those linkages. Because I think it's a great way to stabilize the home ownership part. Everybody's talking about increasing home ownership as a goal. To me, that's a great way to do that. And incorporating some of the work that's already been done, I think would really help. But sustainable communities, I think it's a real opportunity for us on that front.
Yeah. And, you know, even rentals, Jay, this is years ago, but I worked at Southern Methodist University and they were a private school. So they had a lot more flexibility in what they did. But they actually bought homes near the campus. And then when a new faculty member came in, they were given that house for the first 2 years or the first 3 years to live in. And while it was still rental in a way, it was a very stable community that had an attachment to the area. And then sometimes those families went and bought homes in the nearby area. So I've never been able to figure out how the university could help do that, but it's where my question came from.
Yeah, and I appreciate that because that's actually the exact program we've looked at, not at SMU, but a couple other colleges do something very similar, and it really does help draw key faculty, especially young aspiring faculty to the university, which just ratchets the university's, you know, up a level. And we've always thought that, you know, my other hat is the Southwest Visions Foundation, which, you know, that's one of the things we're actually talking about as a board is, do we have the ability to go find dollars so that we can buy those properties and create that kind of a business relationship? Because I know oftentimes it's hard for the state, in Maryland at least, it's hard for the state to go out and buy property like that and have then it's state-owned property and it's a whole other ball of wax.
Right.
But we're like, okay, well, maybe the way to get around that is through the Southwest Vision Foundation, becoming a sustainable community, we're able to access dollars to buy properties to stabilize the community. And we're stabilizing it by actually having the tenants, if you will, be the young faculty who are going to come and stay for a year or two. And then, you know, maybe they're buying a house in Arbutus or Catonsville or somewhere else in the region. But we're getting them here and keeping them local.
Yeah. And the other thing we really saw when that happened is that the young faculty obviously came back to go to performances on campus, and then neighbors did too. And so it created a connection between the campus and the community around the arts, around the recreation centers and games and a variety of things that I think we would love to do. I mean, there's mutual benefit in those things, I think.
Yeah.
Josephine, we had another comment from Abbott Chakma. So I will unmute him.
Yeah, before that, thanks, Jay and Chuck. So if you could just share your vision, I mean, your committee's program and vision, it'll be helpful for us to know, and also pass on the information for anybody else asking about the same question in the future.
I'm not sure where my comments would fit. Probably, I think as I discuss more, I think it would be much more clearer, actually. So I'm currently a PhD student, and I work closely with graduate students. So, and sometimes I do interact with undergraduate students as well. Um, so, um, so in terms of the housing, what I can see mostly that in terms of the um, in terms of the house rent, that most of the students they do have a limited budget for house rent, right? And most of the times they want to pay around like 500 to, I mean, what I'm saying, is that making sense, or hello?
Hello? You were breaking up a lot when you said about the rent.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. So most of the students actually want to pay kind of a 500 to $600, and so that is one feedback that I can give you in terms of the affordability. So, and one more thing is that the rental options, right? So what I mean by rental options is that if you look closely, the housing options around the campus, there are very few options for them. So, I mean, there's kind of a, kind of a monopoly going on there. So monopoly in the sense that um, the housing conditions are not so good, like lots of apartments, there are lots of issues with the mice and cockroaches, right? But the students have no other options but to, to go for renting those apartments, because there's not much more options. So that is one feedback in terms of the, combining the house rent and the rental options, right? So these are two feedback, and one more feedback is that during this COVID pandemic time, like the students want to kind of go outside and have some fresh air. But if you look very closely, that the campus area is kind of closed, and students have very kind of a limited space to roam around. So what I mean by that, usually um, usually the rental companies do have some kind of a park space, right? I mean, I'm not sure whether the like open space where the kids can go and play around, and then these people can sit around. But these kind of facilities are very, very limited. If you look, the surrounding areas around the UMBC, right? So yeah, so these are actually three feedbacks in terms from the student community. That is the one kind of a renting amount that they look for, and in terms of the maintenance, and in terms of the rental option, and in terms of the facility that they looks, they look for some open space, even if it's small, so that they can gather around in an open area. So these kind of options are very all this the thing I discussed is kind of very limited around the UMBC. And apart from the international students, some undergraduate students that they can't that they want to live off campus, they also do have a very limited housing options. Yeah, I'm not sure whether all my feedbacks would fit into what you were expecting, but yeah, that's all from me. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack Mathis. These were the same things we got through the survey too, to improve the existing conditions, and you did bring about the affordability of rent. And with respect to the open space around UMBC, I don't know if anyone at the UMBC here could chime in on that. Other than that, your points are noted. Thank you.
I do want to add one more point, is that um, um, the nearby apartments, nearby off-campus apartments, a large number of students actually live and stay. So whether it is kind of a feasible to develop housing area solely dedicated for college students, because what I mean by that is like people from different occupation. I mean, we live, we stay with, so what? Okay. So basically, if you have dedicated housing options, housing area solely for the students community, then it is kind of a very helpful for students to interact within themselves.
Okay, so you are talking about like to have a new housing development near UMBC, right?
Yeah, something like that. Something like that. Like a cluster of apartments that are solely for UMBC students, so that they know their philosophy, so that they can know their culture, they can know their culture, and it's kind of a so what I mean that if you go to the resident halls, right? If you consider the resident halls, all of them are UMBC students, all of them are college students. So their culture is that they go to they attend the classes, they do homework, they have a specific time for eating and doing all sorts of activities, right? So that's pretty common. So now if we consider a regular a job holder or other than student, right? So their activities are different from the students, right? So their timing, their routine is different. So that's actually what I mean. Yeah. So you can consider what I'm like looking for, like the housing area. You can consider is an off-campus resident hall, something like that kind of concept. Yeah, if it makes sense. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Josephine, we have an additional comment from Paige. So I'm going to unmute Paige now, and then we have comments from Cheryl. So I will unmute her next.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Hope the audio is okay.
It's good.
Yeah, we hear you.
So,
I can bet. Her voice is breaking up. Joe, are you able to hear?
Yeah, it is breaking up a little bit. She also wrote her message in the chat box. So she said, it's their list of all the landlords and rental companies in Arbutus, and should she compile one, there could be an opportunity to convince some landlords to sell the rentals people are saying are in poor condition.
We can see what we can pull from GIS, but if you have anything already pulled in, that'll be helpful too.
okay, yeah. think about that.
Yeah, we can pull a list from GIS, what's available. So, and
Yeah,
also
Amy
in
just
chat
posted
box.
the rental
Yeah.
registry, the Baltimore County's rental registry in the chat box, so you can click on that if you'd like to. I'm going to unmute Cheryl Rydal.
Sure.
Yes, first to address the housing, being able to purchase housing in the area. I think that this area, and Bettina could probably back me up on this, we're just reaching a point in this area where a lot of the older people are, you know, they're passing away, and their properties, their children don't live here anymore, and they're trying to sell them. And so you have a lot of that going on. I do try to purchase property and look at property constantly. And I'm seeing a lot of rehabbing starting to come into the Arbutus area. And I think that this area, we're very lucky to have a couple of local real estate offices that are very, very familiar with the area, the streets, and the families. And I think that if they were contacted or worked with, they know who the people are that are doing this rehabbing. And a lot of these houses, before they go on the market, of course, the realtors know, but there's a lot of good areas, like one would be up in Wynwood that I see a lot of, there's like some foreclosures up there. And I just think that these would be great properties for UMBC to be able to target for the area. The school is a real problem. They used to have the Catholic schools in the area. Those have been closed down. And I hear so many young families want to come into this area because it's a little bit more affordable than Elk Ridge or Howard County or Catonsville, that they all say constantly, I want to get out before my children are going to go to Lansdowne High School. So I don't know if there is something that can be done. I mean, I know there's some things that they've talked about redoing that school, but if also people, you know, would become more familiar with the school, or there was a better image, or maybe it's not so bad over there. I hear a lot of people say, oh, I went there and it was fine. I hear a lot of people just have a real stigma against that school. And I think it's really causing a lot of problems in the area. As far as the rental units, I absolutely adore students, okay? And I love renting to them. And I could run a seminar on what landlords could do to attract students. But I will tell you, for the last 2 years, because I've been IDing properties and getting them into rental mode, and so I talked to all the people in the ads myself. I have not turned this over to a rental agency, because I want to scope out the market, like who is looking for housing, you know, what is the market out there? And I can pretty much, you know, I feel like I've got a really good handle on that. But if you're talking about students coming into the area, I will back up what the other gentleman was saying. They're looking for somewhere between $500 and $700 perhaps to be able to put out for the rental. And I will come back to this onerous legislation that I complain about, where they will not let more than 2 unrelated people. And I didn't even know this was happening myself after I had just purchased a couple of properties. But when you take a look at your insurance, because a lot of the housing is in the 1920s, so that causes a higher insurance. When you look at property tax, when you do the whole thing, it's impossible with 2 people in a house to be able to charge that rent. Now, if you were to allow 1 person per bedroom, because most places are a 3-bedroom house, and I realize that there are groups of students that, yes, they want to have 5 and 6 and 8 students, Yahoo, in a house. But if you were to be able to allow 3 to a house, this would solve this problem and be able to get that rent into that $500 to $700, including utilities for the students. Right now, they're going, they're going over to Elk Ridge, and they'll get a newer place. They're, going to Owings Mills, they're going to Catonsville. That we're losing that college population to those areas because it's unaffordable in Arbutus. And it really shouldn't be that way, because it's a lot of older properties. They've had, they've been rehabbed. They're not, like all movie star like, but they're very responsible rehabs that have been done, but the students can't afford them. The other market that I see coming into Arbutus that I get a lot of requests for, I might get 70 calls just on one apartment if I will post it. And when I go through that, probably half of those calls are from people that are single mothers with children. And the main word they use all the time, why they want to get out of where they're at, is because of safety. They're looking to go somewhere where there's safety. A lot of them have some substance abuse problems, and I'm seeing a lot of that come into Arbutus. And, that's fine, but I don't feel that we have as much of the support services that we need to be able to address that population. So, but anyhow, if we wanted to attract more of the college students, I really think that this law, or we need to have the legislators or something, try to come up with some type of a different law. The other thing too is I do know of a couple places that are close to campus where they're actually running a little bit of a dormitory situation, where you have somebody that, like a boarding house, where somebody is living in the house and then they're able to have 3 or 4 students there. And I think that works very well when you're talking about students coming from other countries. The last thing I'll say is I used to have a lot of employees that would come, and they would come from Germany, the Netherlands, Switzerland, and they absolutely loved Arbutus. They wouldn't have cars. They were able to walk and move around and get on the bus line. And it's just a great place, for students like that. To be. I was actually ran an intern site for Ohio State University. So I really think that being able to offer this housing to students, that we have such a great potential there. I've not had any problems with students. You have to stay active with them. And there are certain things that you do, which I won't go into now, which you do need to be able to offer the students that they are looking for, that I don't think the normal landlord is aware of. I do get told a lot by people that are on the phone that they cannot get people to return their calls the second that they mention that they're a student. And I deal with a lot of parents, that are actually trying to sign the leases for the students. And, they're very secure financially. And again, the safety is a big issue with them, that they want to know that there is a safety place. So, I just can't say enough about how I think renting to students is a wonderful thing. And I see nothing but positive for my students. And I see them frequenting, all the businesses and eating, riding bicycles up to campus, riding the bus if they want to go downtown. I just see a great thing for the community if we could encourage that. Thank you.
Thanks, Cheryl. Yeah, we've been hearing a lot along the same line, renting to students, renting to UMBC students. And from the chat box, I'm seeing that Jay would like to add something to that.
Yeah, we have Jay and then Bettina after that, who would also like to speak. So I will unmute Jay and then we will go to Bettina.
Thank you.
Oh, it's a good 1-2 punch, Jay and then Bettina. So just really quick, Cheryl, just so you know, once again, with my hat on the UMBC Neighborhood Relations Committee, we've done a lot of work on that particular issue, student rentals, the challenges, the opportunities. Pete Kumis and I actually probably many years ago when he was still at Councilman Quirk's office, we actually did our own little survey around the campus. And the one point I wanted to make is there's really a delineation here between two groups, I'll call them. There are the registered rental properties and then the non-registered rental properties, which is a major challenge because what happens is you're just really dealing with two different sets of rules, right? I can tell you from being on that UMBC committee for a number of years, we don't want the students to be getting taken advantage of, so it's really important for that process to be in place. But as a 20-plus year resident on Poplar Avenue, I also know the pinch you can feel when the students are present and there's 6 people living in a house that holds 3 and there's 6 cars now taking up the street where there's only room for 2. So there's some challenges here that we've been dealing with, and I think this is once again a great opportunity for what we're doing with sustainable communities and the other work to find out how do we deal with these 2 issues, because I just want to make the clarity of the registered rentals and then the non-registered rentals, we'll call them.
I have registered rentals, and I always, provide parking so that it's not a nuisance in the neighborhood, because I understand, the problem. But like right now, I have a young girl that's renting from me that is a UMBC student, and she can't get her rental deposit back from the previous place that she was in up in the Westland Gardens. And, if I hear you on there, but I don't know who you are. I wish I had the names of some of the people at UMBC that I could contact to put her in contact with, because I do come across these problems with students. And she also had some other friends that were looking for places to rent when school started, and it was very difficult trying to hook her up with people, to rent. So I hear people getting on this website, but you say you're from UMBC, but I'm missing what your name is or your email or, where you're at, because I think I would email you later and bring up some things.
Yeah, sure. What I'll do is Bettina and I are good friends, and we're on the Southwest Visions Foundation. So I'll work with Bettina to connect with you, because we can make sure this student who's not being taken care of properly gets taken care of, and we can make sure they get connected to the right people.
And I've had this happen with several of them. Okay. Yeah. And again, they're being taken advantage of, or it's also from some properties that are not registered. Okay. So thank you.
Got it. Absolutely. Thank you.
Jay and Bettina are also in our Sustainable Community Advisory Committee. So you could share that information with us. So that'll be helpful to share with everyone. And with the county has the registry database where it monitors registered properties, rental properties for 6 units or less. State monitors more than that. So that's the link that Amy shared before to see the rental registrations. So you can have a look at that too.
I will unmute Bettina, and then we have a comment from Nancy Young, so we will go to her next.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, it would be great to have open communication between the landlords and UMBC. And then that way UMBC could kind of screen the landlords a little bit, and, vice versa. It's a great thing to open up the communication. And I'm sure we can figure out a way for GABA to facilitate that connection and get the word out that, hey, if you're a property owner in the area, contact UMBC, and then, just kind of work on setting up a program where we can have that open communication and more of a resource for the students coming in and the property owners in the area. So I would be willing to say GABA would be willing to, help get that off the ground. If there's someone at UMBC that works in that particular office, we could start the conversation and see where it goes from there.
Thanks, Bettina.
Lisa Action had a comment. She says that UMBC off-campus student services is available to support both students and renters and landlords. And she provided a link, which I then shared with everyone in the chat box. Lisa, if you want to talk about that more, you're welcome to. I think Michael McAuliffe is also looking to speak. So Lisa, then Michael next.
Okay, Lisa is the one of our
My colleague Nancy Young is on the call as well, our Vice President for Student Affairs. Our off-campus student services office is in that area and has resources both for property owners and students seeking housing. And we're always happy to hear from people. Nancy, would you like to add to that?
Sure. I had written the same comment that Lisa shared. The off-campus student services, Dr. Antonio Silas also sits with some of the groups in the community. They do work with landlords and they do work with students. They help students understand their legal rights. They can also help refer them when there are challenges with rent. We do not do legal services, but we connect them and give them advice on where they can find that. We also do not endorse specific properties. As a state agency, we are asked not to do that. However, when we do get multiple student complaints, we list them and do reach out to the landlord to make them aware that we have removed their property from our recommendations based on the unresolved complaints after we've helped students make those complaints through the right agencies.
Thanks, Nancy. I was just going to say Lisa is also in our advisory committee, so we have representatives from UMBC too. So this is good feedback. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. McAuliffe, you're up.
Hi, thank you. I've lived in the neighborhood my whole life, 57 years. I'm not an investor. I don't have an investment property. My only interest in Arbutus and Halethorpe is to live there and raise my family, not an investor. So far, this meeting has just been talking about UMBC housing. I think maybe UMBC is placing a little too much burden on Arbutus finding housing for these folks. I interact with code enforcement quite a bit for various things. I get complaints from neighborhood folks and I act on them. And we do have some rentals in the neighborhood with the UMBC students that aren't run so well. I know there are some properties that are run well, but there's a lot that aren't. And I've reached out to UMBC with a couple of these properties, these problem properties, problem landlord as well, and gotten only minor help from it. And I don't like the whole transiency of, I wouldn't want to live next door to a house that had new students in every 6 months. Have to deal with it. We've had some houses in the neighborhood have gone through, rehabbing. They were in bad shape. Some rehabbers came in, redid them, and they're selling them for a good price. And most of the people looking at these homes that I've seen are young families that are looking to move from another neighborhood or move from a townhouse. And I don't like this big emphasis on looking for UMBC housing. This two person per rental unit law has come into place just in the last couple of years, and it's been done for good reason, because there's been problems around Towson. There's been some problems around UMBC. I'm not in this. I have no investment property in Arbutus or Halethorpe other than the house that I live in. So I would be careful about people wanting to change laws or advocate to make more rental housing in Halethorpe and Arbutus. I think it's more important to get more stable families there. That's my take on it. I mean, you got 3 and 4 bedroom homes in Arbutus and Halethorpe. If you rent it out for different students, each have a car. Most of these properties can't accommodate 4 cars. I know Cheryl Rydal, who's in our association, longtime history in Arbutus. She does have some rental units that are kept in good shape. There's no problem there, but we do have some rental issues, properties that UMBC rents. And so I'd like to say that. Maybe, look, we spoke with UMBC at one time about buying the Good Shepherd property that is now being proposed to have a townhouse community there. That would concern me, and I brought it up in one of the meetings, that I would be concerned that the homes there would be bought privately and then rented out to 3 or 4 UMBC students. I wouldn't like to see that widespread in that community. So, yes, that's my concern there. There is an existing building at the Good Shepherd property that would accommodate housing because it was a residential facility. But from what I understand, UMBC was not interested in it. So that would have been a great way to infuse UMBC, not buy these 4-bedroom houses and stuff students in them. That's my take on it. I know it's not a popular opinion, but one nonetheless.
Nancy Young and then Paige said that they could address this, so I'll unmute Nancy.
So I sit in a really interesting position in that I absolutely love our students, and I'm tasked with helping to find them housing, and that's all over the place and largely in apartment buildings that are located in other areas. And so it might surprise you that we actually have worked very hard to make sure that some of the ordinances that protect individual family homes have been in place. And I personally have been to Annapolis to work on some of the policies around alcohol use and the ability to give citations for socials and other things that we hope will help not only the concerns you talk about, Mike, but to keep the neighborhoods exactly what they are, wonderful, safe places for families and others to live. And when students who want to respect that choose to live there, and there's rental properties, that's not something that we manage, but we do try to help keep that where it is. So I think it came up from others. You heard me start the conversation by saying, I'd love to look at how we can get more young faculty in that area so that the connection would be strong between our two communities, because I think there's mutual benefit for us. And at the same time, recognizing that there may, just as the young gentleman, our student said, that they would really like to live in a community that's all students. And so I think families like to live with families, students like to live with students. And so looking for solutions where we can do both of that. And I think one of the reasons I'm here is to listen, to hear what the community concerns are, so that as we're thinking about those kinds of issues together, I'm listening as much as I'm talking. And so that means I should hush right now. So thank you for listening.
Well, I did hear you speak about the connection between faculty and staff, and that a lot would like to live in Arbutus. Of course, it's close to UMBC, a 5-minute commute. Who doesn't want that? And I think that's a great idea. Just full disclosure, I am the president of Halethorpe Improvement Association. I've been involved with Halethorpe Improvement Association for about 20 years now. And that's something I would like to see come into the Halethorpe area is faculty and staff from UMBC. Just not real crazy about the massive student population. Nothing against the students. My daughter is a UMBC grad, and that's what my sisters were. Great school. There's a lot to offer in the neighborhood. I'm just not crazy about a large influx of students because we don't have any control of what happens in these places. In the bad places, not the good places. The good places are fine. It's the bad places. The empty landlord.
Paige asks in the chat box, she asks, is the aim of the Sustainable Community Designation to turn Arbutus into a college town or to make it more attractive to prospective homeowners? Paula Wolf also mentioned that she agrees with Mike on the issue. UMBC is not solely responsible, but there are too many rentals in Arbutus and Halethorpe. So I don't know if we could address Paige's question
Yeah, it's all along the same line. So thanks, Nancy, Mike, Paula, and Paige. It's the question versus comment saying, is it going to be college town versus what's the aim of sustainable community designation? Sustainable community designation aim is not to turn anything into something which is not here. We are just here to hear comments to see what the community needs and what's existing. And that's the reason we're asking for strengths and weaknesses and to know what you all want. So all these comments are really helpful. So we it's not going to bring in a new thing and change the entire atmosphere there. So it is just building upon what's existing and sticking to the county code and build upon what's there. So thanks for all your comments.
Josephine, we do have a comment in the Q&A box from Michael. He
Sure.
had posted a comment around 6:19 p.m. He said Arbutus is comprised of mostly 3- and 4-bedroom homes, and I would like not to be a proponent of encouraging these homes to become college student rentals.
Yeah, he just talked about that. Mike Michael. Yeah, thanks, Ganesh.
Okay. He was asking if he's on the list of chat box participants.
Yes, he did talk now, so we heard you. Thank you. $6:57. I'll give a couple more minutes if there's any more questions, or else I can wrap the session and get ready for the next meeting. So I have a couple more comments to tell before I wrap the meeting. We will have a survey report posted on the hub that will be consolidated graphs and comments from all the focus group elements from the entire survey which we took. So that will be available for you to have a look at it. It will be posted tomorrow, and then we will all keep you in the loop in the next steps. We have one more meeting, which will be the last focus group meeting, the local government focus group meeting at 7:30 p.m. And the transportation survey is still available. So if you haven't had a chance to take, please go do so. You will get an email from me tomorrow, the follow-up email after the meeting. So you will have all the links and what to do next. So if there is no more questions, I don't see anything on my end.
Yeah, I haven't gotten any other questions, Josephine.
Okay. Okay then. Did anybody say anything?
Yeah, I was gonna ask to make a comment.
Sure.
Okay. I do, I hear people talking about wanting to have the families in the community, and I absolutely 100% agree with doing that. I just think that there are some areas in the community, like for instance, where I have a couple of properties that I would find it hard that young families would be interested in that area. And it's just kind of a way to keep that section from going into absolute total disrepair. Unfortunately, I do hear, a lot of these comments about young families about the schools in the area, and more specifically, this Lansdowne High School. And I really think that, to be able to attract these young families, the schooling really seriously needs to be done. And then I also think that if you were going to allow some rentals, I mean, it's a free world, so it's hard to limit that. There are some older homes that are in some areas that really aren't strict neighborhoods that could have some college housing or units in them. And I agree that it would be wonderful to attract the young families and people to Arbutus, but we really need to tackle this this school issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Cheryl. And it is 7 o'clock. I will wrap up this meeting and look forward to my emails with the next steps and the links to the hub and the survey reports and everything. Thank you all. Thank you everyone for joining me today at this meeting. Thank you.